The idea of freedom.
Yeah.
Let's start with that. Do you think there is an imbalance and people are disagreeing or not really understanding what freedom actually means? Something that is a trend right now. I saw Joe Rogan posting that, making a couple of posts of these
Hmm.
um, um, environmental activists gluing themselves or throwing soup at Van Gogh's painting, or like these famous paintings that are in museums.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they throw the soup and then they glue themselves to the wall and start making this moralist type speech. How we are destroying the environment.
Well,
Do you think that has reached an extreme where they feel like they can destroy a piece of art, a piece of history, in the name of environmental justice? Do you think that's plausible? Do you think that's intelligent, or do you think that's just an extreme that is not doing any good for society?
well, this is obviously a matter of opinion. Only time will definitely prove. I don't agree, and I feel repulsed. I don't care about what they have to say once I see these things, because I think the irony behind it is that we are talking about, if you look at man as a conscious being that's able to create and imagine and do things, that's kind of like one of the biggest expressions of
You have a
humanity.
mosquito biting you right now.
Did
Oh
I get it?
no, he flew away. Sorry,
It's all good. Thanks for
I was trying to save him.
trying to save me or the mosquito.
Well,
So as I was saying, like,
save itself.
if you
Flew
think
away.
about this, the human spirit and the creativity and the w- an expression of consciousness in this reality that we live in, I think like these pieces of art and these works of art are kind of our shout out to the universe about the human condition, because I don't know any other species who does art for pleasure or entertainment. So it's kind of like a big vessel of humanity in itself.
Yeah.
I feel like works of art should be treasured, and they're very important for us as a species. So to go in and destroy those things in order to say, hey, we're destroying this part of the human spirit to prove that humans should still hope to live in a world that's livable, etc., etc. It's kind of like a mixed message. I understand the shock value, but I make no apologies for it. Thankfully, as I hear, like these guys threw soup on some Van Goghs and whatnot
Oh, they've been doing that. Like,
for a while, and they haven't, the works haven't been ruined. And I frankly, personally, and this is my only personal, I don't care about what they have to say after. Once I see that, it's too shocking. For me.
exactly. Yeah.
But that's
That's
just
how
my,
I feel too.
yeah, me personally. Now, because I don't feel, it's an interesting debate, because I think there was been a huge relativization of climate science, and for some reason there are some people trying to negate a lot of
To deny.
negate and deny the existence of climate change or man-made climate change, which I don't understand. What point does that accomplish? Climate change science has been around since the 70s. It's not a
Right.
new thing. It's not something that's polarizing right now. Now it's trendier than ever because we're getting, according to the experts,
Yeah.
getting closer to this
Oh,
point
that's
of no
something
return.
that actually made me um a little skeptical about AOC,
Mm.
because she said one time that the world was going to end in 12 years,
Well,
something like
it's
that.
kind of those
And I
messages
thought
get
she was
convoluted.
I just saw her as a radical.
Those messages get
Not very.
convoluted because the effects are real, and you can say all you want about, it's there's a cyclical climate is cyclical on planet Earth. Yes, it's cyclical on 100,000 year scale, not cyclical on 100 years. So if you're gonna get this huge amount of energy and just explode into an atmosphere in the space of like what would be like a couple of seconds in the geological scale, there's gonna be some very fast changing issues and things that's going to happen that might seem like a lifetime for us, but in the grand scheme of things,
Right.
it's very intense. It happens in a very, very, very short period of time. The world life will go on. The world in the history, scientists count around 6 mass extinctions. What is a mass extinction? Is when 90 to 95% of the whole biodiversity just expires, just disappears. So we were a product of, there's like 100% biodiversity, 95% died off, the 5% multiplied, and then that happened around 6 times for the past 4.6 billion years, which is the time that the Earth has been around, right? And life is even
Allegedly.
I mean, the records show, and the scientists estimate to the best of their conclusion because nobody was here to see it. So we take all these factors in life. We'll obviously find a way. As a human, I feel really sad to see that the last white rhino has walked the earth and the dodo has went extinct in our lifetime, and all of these things happen. But we're getting into big trouble once you see the consequence of what happens in the oceans and the corals and the biodiversity of the sea, and how all of this can affect, and there's no way to do anything about it. So I feel like these are very important topics.
Right.
But on the other side, like, all of our society is based off of burning fossil fuels. It's not something that you just can turn off. So it's a complicated problem, but it's a problem that's been pushed down the road, and the can has been kicked down the road so many times. And now people are waking up, and California won't sell any cars that are not electric past 2035, for example. That's the new goal. And that's a very noble goal. And now we have the technology and we can do all these things. But it's a complicated problem. You have some people who have power.
Doesn't it take a lot of fossil fuel to also generate that energy that people are plugging their cars into?
Well, not necessarily if you also modernize the network.
What about the lithium that is used
Everything has problems.
for the battery? Like,
everything has problems. Mining has problems. Like, refining creates.
So that's why I mean, sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't agree with things being taken out of proportion.
Okay.
You have to treat the problem the way is demanded to be treated. You don't take things out of proportion. You don't tell people that the world is going to end in 12 years. And I think we are smart enough as a species to progressively find solutions without extreme measures. And I feel like what's happening nowadays is this sort of like environmental terror that is being imposed upon the population, and it's creating this sort of like moralist type of people that cannot see you washing your car anymore, and they're gonna call you out and say, hey, you're not supposed to be washing your car because the world's gonna end in 12 years if you keep washing your car like that, or if you keep using your truck, or I don't know. So I feel like those things kind of like go together, the moral part of it and the technical part of it. And I don't think like turning the whole market to electric cars will solve the problem, because with that big turn, with that big change, other problems will be generated, will emerge. And then what? So I think we need a certain level of skepticism or caution when moving so fast and changing the market so fast and the way things are done so fast, and things are being done in the name of environmental health and, global warming, sort of like we got to ease that global warming because, otherwise the ice caps are going to melt. If that was the case, like the video you sent me the other day, millionaires and billionaires wouldn't be buying houses, buying property next to the ocean, if that was a big...
That's the big reveal. Oh,
big
this millionaire just bought this house by the beach.
It's just one of the examples, one of the examples, because that's something that's a narrative that's been pushed upon us since, let's say, Al Gore presented that documentary or whatever that won an Oscar or whatever.
An Awful Truth.
And a lot of
inconvenient
truth. There's apparently there are a lot of problems with his metrics, a lot of problems with his observations and with his
But
statistics.
he's not a scientist. He's a politician. Sure, you
Well,
can
I
say
know
that
that,
his
but
documentary is full
that
of
was
holes.
the
It doesn't
whole
negate the
spark,
reality.
and then
Yeah.
and then we have great Greta Thunberg, a little kid that is taking the reins on this fight against environmental changes, and she's like a little moralist that just like screams the truth, quote unquote, at adults, saying that adults are ruining the planet or whatever, and she doesn't really bring any sort of like real solution um, to the problem. I feel like she's just being used by political forces.
I think
But anyways,
being used by legal forces. So she was like a kid who I think she either the first thing that she did, she strapped herself to a pole as a tween. Like she was like
no,
13 or 14.
she made
That's
that
that's
speech.
no because
How dare you?
but that's
that
wait great. That's like way end game for Greta. She started off by becoming this icon.
and then she said the
by,
blah blah
by
blah.
she was skipping school. You don't know her. Maybe you just found out about her through that
No, I
speech.
just
But I
haven't
knew her way
no,
before
but I
that.
haven't seen her offer any real solution.
Well, it doesn't matter. She's calling people out, and she's a kid. How like how dare this teenager not have the solution, energetic solution, but still tell us that the path that we are on is like doomed. Like why does one thing has to negate the other? The problem is like this is not a new, like I started by saying this been around since the 70s, and these preoccupations have been starting around since the 70s. So where is the rush? Where are the rush changes that you're talking about? I don't see them. Like every measure is to 5 to 10 years. Let's get these goals, because there is pragmaticisms. Like there's infrastructure that needs to be built. You can't just turn off the gas. You can't turn off the heating.
Exactly.
But that should have started like 20 years ago, and we're getting closer and closer to a quote unquote edge by some metrics.
But a lot of things
put
are
out
being
by-
affected now by this extreme sense of urgency, and
But
I
that's
think
not
that's
extreme
unnecessary. And it's
extreme
gonna,
sense of
it's
energy
gonna
would say
generate
turn
a
it
lot
off
of,
tomorrow. That's not what's happening. The extreme sense of urgency is
What-
like if you don't get people don't understand like past next year. They can't make 10-year plans, 20-year plans.
Okay.
But these things need to be part of the public discourse and the public narrative, because otherwise there's no incentives for the freaking people who actually call the shots and make these things happen to do anything about it. And I'll explain it in a few ways. Like if you see all around the world, you're getting into a phase where we're having more and more extreme weather events. I think that's undeniable. Like the heat waves are longer and stronger. The forest fires are longer and stronger. The storms in the winter, they're bigger, they're larger. Instead of having one hurricane in season, you have 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is like a trend. This is like since there's measurements.
Oh, this is the let's say the strongest
weather events on record.
hurricane, or the strongest
Hurricane season.
tempestade. How do you say
Storm.
Since 1922. Like
That means that was one really strong in 1922. Like since most
well,
of
I
this,
mean, that's
since
why
there's record.
I understand. I understand the weather being cycle.
But what do you mean? What kind of cycle? Based off
I
of what?
want to understand what is the impact that the human being with the carbon.
But that's
production.
an easy measurable thing. When you analyze any sample of air, you can look in the historic records, right? And there's a huge spike in parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and you can compare it to the ice in Antarctica. And you go and you guys drill these huge tubes that trap the air while the snow is falling, and you can say, hey, how was the air on planet Earth 10,000 years ago? 50,000 years ago. However deep does the ice go? Because those are perpetual ices. It snows and it stays. It never evaporates. So it creates like this really neat record of how the air used to be, the composition, the chemical composition of air. And you can compare it to today's values, and you can compare today's values to 50 years ago. And you can do some math, and you see how everything that requires, burning of fossil fuels has an emission, and you can calculate those emissions. You can calculate the volume of air times what happens to this carbon dioxide. Does it go out to space? Does it stay floating? Does it mix with the air? So all of these things are measurable, and there's a lot of smart people thinking and analyzing all of these these are just data readings. Then you're going to put them into models and interpret them, and you can, but you can't deny where does nothing in nature disappears. This is Lavoisier's law. Nothing is created, nothing is destroyed, everything is transformed. Hello everybody, and thank you for watching until the end. This has been Woke Wars, and I hope you liked our conversation. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Tell us what you'd like to hear us talk about next. Also, check out some of our other episodes. We post every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We will see you on the next one.